January 7th, 1907, page 156. At the chime of the church bells, I dressed and breakfasted with Marm, and I left for work. When I arrived at the office, the first person I saw was the science fellow, who bowed his head with puppy dog eyes before I could turn away. It seemed to be an apology of sorts, but I didn't feel I could accept it. I entered Mr. Soper's office, but he was not in. I breathed deeply, smelling his cologne, which seemed to course through me like the silvery stream. On my desk I found a note with his hand that said, "Miss G. in a meeting with Mr. Biggs about M.M. will return around lunch, Mr. S." He had finally given in. I folded the note carefully and placed it in my desk drawer. I looked for the records about our typhoid case, but Mr. Soper had taken them all to Mr. Biggs for the meeting about Mary Mallon. There would be no chance for me to re-examine them. Even Mr. Soper's private journal was gone. I straightened my desk. I looked at my jottings of other cases, distracted every time I heard footsteps or a door slam. Finally, Mr. Soper returned. I looked up from my typing, struck by the handsome curve of his cheek. I saw that the meeting occupied his thoughts, so I asked him about it. He seemed to notice me then, and said that Mr. Biggs had listened to the case, that they had discussed different options for approaching Mary, and Mr. Biggs would give us his decision soon. He said that the girl had called the hospital and found out that the little girl who had taken ill had died. When they called the mansion, they discovered that Mary had quit the family, and I stood up and I went to his desk. I felt foolish for my moony feelings about Mr. Soper when this woman, the cook, was this very possible killer was loose. "Do you know where she is?" I asked. He nodded his head slowly. "We called her bureau to inform them of the epidemic, and they said they have assigned her to a new house, the Bowings. A family of 6 over on the west side. They were quite rude, in fact. Seems they get commission for Mary Mallon, and they don't want to lose, and they are worried about their reputation. I feel we should warn the family somehow, but it's a risk. I don't want to scare Mary off again. We must wait for Mr. Biggs to make a recommendation. I have told him about Mary Mallon is a serious danger, and the police guard is in order." Mr. Soper rubbed his forehead in a way that gave me a glimmer of despair. So he had been thinking of calling the police. I went on, "Prudence, I don't want you to come into this building again ever alone. Do you understand what I mean?" I looked at him, the red tinge on his face that comes when he doesn't sleep much. "Of course, Mr. Soper. I've learned my lesson." He nodded and handed me a new folio. "Get to work on this until we hear from Mr. Biggs," he said. I took it and started to type out the notes of a new case, but I couldn't put my mind on it. We waited all day to hear from Mr. Biggs, but by evening still no word. I won't be able to concentrate on any of our other cases until we hear back from Mr. Biggs about Mary Mallon. I tried to drive away my feelings for my chief, to bury them deep inside this cave of me, but it's not so easy. It's like a sickness, this feeling, this hunger that won't go away. My heart feels like an open wound.